peaceful. And then something happened. Joe Biden became president, inherited this American problem, and I guess now Antifa is wreaking havoc in Joe Biden's America. One day, not even one day, is the inauguration day. They went out and they smashed up the Democrat headquarters. I think this was in Portland, among other protests, burning American flags, trashing things in Seattle, and the internet lit up, ragging on Joe Biden. And then something kind of hilarious happened. Twitter has banned several high-profile Antifa-related accounts. Finally. Yeah, after all of these years, the years spent of complaining about left-wing extremists and terrorists organizing on their platform and them doing nothing, as soon as it's a problem for Joe Biden, gone. Wonderful. So we're gonna talk a bit about this stuff. We got some other stories in the same vein. There's this think tank guy who tweeted a disparaging comment about Mike Pence. Well, I shouldn't say disparaging. He tweeted that he should be. I won't even get into it. Just he was bordering on threats of violence. He lost his job now. So it's funny how we're making it this far into the double standard now applying to the left. But it's all in the benefit of them. So we're going to go through these stories. Joining us today, we've got Matt Brainerd. Matt, do you want to introduce yourself? Explain who you are, what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm probably best known as the former director of data and strategy for President Trump's campaign in 2016. I lead Look Ahead America, a 501c3 dedicated to registering, educating, and turning out to vote disaffected patriotic Americans, as well as fighting for election reform and against corporate censorship. And most recently, I led the Voter Integrity Project, which brought me here last time, so I'm very glad to be a return guest.
Right on. Bill Gurkowski is here, peddling T-shirts.
Howdy. I am your friendly parking lot dweller and, as you mentioned, very humble T-shirt vendor that sells all the shirts that he always wears. How pathetic am I?
We have a bedroom here for Luke. He doesn't want it. So when he's like, I live in a parking lot, he's choosing to do that.
Yeah. I'm a poor man. Help. give me your monies. Go now on thebestpoliticalshirts.com or wearechange.org/shirts, whatever it is. You know how it is.
That is a pretty good shirt you got there, to be honest.
Yeah,
we have the Gorilla shirt. It's just not political at all. And I don't think our shirts are ever going to be really political. They might just be like jokey, maybe cultural, but yeah, it's pretty good.
He doesn't have enough room for all of the news bureaus there that could be listed.
I know. It should be like a NASCAR suit, to be honest with you.
Is Vox is not on there.
I haven't checked it. Nope, not Vox. No.
Oh man.
Is Washington Post?
We'll make another shirt. Don't worry. We'll make a full shirt. No, this isn't my next shirt. My next shirt's gonna be a NASCAR with all the corporate mainstream media logos, and it's gonna say corporate sellout right here.
I love it.
So I'm gonna write that down so I don't forget it.
I get a cut of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
5%.
Yes. I am a gorilla, at least a descendant of one, or we have a similar ancestor, I believe. I am the token liberal on the show, and I have smoked DMT.
Ooh.
I don't think you're a liberal, bro.
No, but I'm the token liberal on the show, but I'm not liberal.
Yeah, I don't think you're
Yeah.
liberal.
Undercover liberal.
That's right.
Undercover conservative.
Yeah.
You're definitely not a
No,
liberal.
Yeah.
Like liberals are in a weird space.
Nah, I think you got to be liberal and conservative if you want to live a balanced life. Just in the right time, Sometimes you want to be conservative. Sometimes you want to be liberal about changing something. Sometimes you want to make sure something doesn't change, like conservation.
There's nuance in all things.
There is,
Ah.
yeah. It's true. It's true.
Right on. We also got Sour Patch Lids
Yeah.
pressing all the
I
buttons.
am in the corner. I do press all the buttons. I'm wearing glasses tonight. Here's Tim.
There's so much news. We also have Rachel Maddow crying because Joe Biden won, and
Yikes.
Andrew Sullivan also crying.
I don't know
Who
who
are
that
these
is.
people who started crying when Joe Biden became president? They cried when Trump became president, and they cried when Trump left the presidency. It's like they'll cry for anything, man. You know what's funny? I once read that men cry once a month and women cry 6 times a month. But I gotta be honest, I can't remember the last time I cried. I don't know. Maybe
Feels
I'm just
good.
a
Sometimes.
cold-hearted, dark villain with no.
Do you want to cry?
No, I got nothing to cry over.
Yeah, I think 6 is a little low too. By the way,
Depends on the woman. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
Well, Rachel Maddow, I think, does cry a lot, and I mean that. I'm not saying that to be like, haha, she cries. No, she really does. When the Mueller report, came out that Trump wasn't, colluding with the Russians, she was like fighting back tears, and that was really weird.
I've noticed if I fast, I'm more likely to cry, more in touch with my emotions. I can get to crying quicker.
More in touch though, but not in control of.
I don't know. I'm
Like, I
it's
could
easier
make
to
myself
feel
cry.
things.
It's like acting technique.
Yeah, it's an acting technique.
Yeah. But or I could just like not. Anyway, they cried. So we've got a bunch of stories to go through, and this guy lost his job, and it's crazy, and, Antifa getting banned. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, my friends, and become members to help support the show. We are trying to build up a strong backbone, a user base, a membership that will protect us from censorship. If we get nuked across the board, like many channels have, then we're gone. But if you go to timcast.com and you sign up, and we have a decent amount of subscribers, we can keep doing the show forever. And I guess, there's always the possibility they ban my website outright, but that seems really, really unlikely. We got a post up the other night. I don't know if you saw, we were yelling about whether or not Trump is truly corrupt. And so we actually did another 20 or so minutes, just about 20 minutes. And it's a members-only post, and we're all basically yelling at each other, and it's good fun. And that's at timcast.com. A lot of people have mentioned they're having trouble with signing up. Just email members@timcast.com, and we are getting it all fixed for everybody. The site is new, and there is I think it's a third-party problem, so we have to, do some kind of plugin or integration. It's certain email addresses for whatever reason. But timcast.com, become a member, and it is greatly, greatly appreciated. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notification bell, and share this with your friends, because that's the real way we win. But let's get to the news. Most of you may have seen the reports from Reuters this morning. Anti-fascist protesters vandalize buildings in Portland and Seattle. They report anti-government and anti-fascist protesters in Portland and Seattle vandalized a Democratic Party office and other buildings and scuffled with police on Wednesday, protesting against President Joe Biden's inauguration. People dressed in black and with their faces covered broke windows in the glass door at the Democratic Party of Oregon business office in Portland, spray painting an anarchist symbol over the party sign. Video posted on social media showed. We don't want Biden. We want revenge for police murders, imperialist wars, and fascist massacres, read a banner they marched under. The new Democratic president was sworn in on Wednesday, urging unity and restoration after Republican Donald Trump's divisive tenure. Donald Trump was so divisive when, Joe Biden started his presidency by saying this country is being torn apart by white supremacists and nativists, and sounded an awful lot like he was calling the other half of the country deplorables, if you know what I mean. So spare me this rhetoric about, Biden being the one who truly does want unity. I'll respect him trying to tone things down. But at least I can say this. He used and abused and is tossing out Antifa. The Democrats defended him. What was that meme you mentioned, Luke?
In Toy Story, there's a scene where the toys are being thrown out, and right now there's a meme going around with the toys being BLM and Antifa, and
Yes.
the big, the child in there being, of course, Joe Biden, throwing them away.
Throwing him in the garbage.
The real test, though, is when and if these Antifa members get arrested, is his campaign going to continue to bail them out of prison? Because that's how you really know if he's done with them or not.
Yes, because Kamala Harris also was raising funds for a lot of the rioters that broke the law. And also, what's really interesting is, we had the mainstream media hyperbolically screaming about the potential of violence at all the 50 capitals that's coming our way. They were screaming about it at the highest decibel of annoyance possible. But now we do have violence, but there's a different kind of violence that just gets totally swept under the rug. No one's talking about this. What's going on here? It's ridiculous.
Conservatives are aware of the double standard. And I'm sorry, but saying there's a double standard is pointless at right now. And the Republicans are more than happy to stand to attention for the Democrats to help them pretend to provide balance to their agenda. So Mitch McConnell with his, turtle smile, well, I'm totally grateful for Joe Biden. And there you go. That's it. He stands up, he claps and cheers. All these Republicans are clapping and cheering. Yay, the Democrats won. And there's no one actually fighting for conservatives. No, maybe a couple people. And it's not even necessarily conservatives, but just against the left, you have this faux resistance. So what's happening now, in my opinion, and it could have gone either way. I thought Joe Biden was going to throw them a little bit more red meat, maybe throw them a bone to placate them. But I guess these people just want chaos. So it's really funny because when we saw them destroying the windows at the Democratic Party HQ, these viral videos on Twitter, someone tweeted that it was just like what the U.S. normally does, funding terrorists in the Middle East who then eventually turn on us and start causing damage to, right? Isn't that funny? So the Mujahideen, for instance, and then Al-Qaeda. So they get these Antifa people to go around smashing everything up. They say, oh, no, look at Trump's America. And now that it's Biden's America, and they go around smashing things up, it's like, yeah, it's their fault.
There was tear gas deployed in major U.S. cities
Hold
because
on.
of that. Right?
This was Joe Biden's Gestapo
Exactly.
stomping out anti-racist, and pro-freedom protesters,
Anti-fascists.
anti-fascists. They were just
right.
trying to help. And Joe Biden's Gestapo
Yeah.
stomped them out.
Which is, again, a 180-degree turn from where we were 6 months ago, where Tom Cotton wrote a New York Times editorial piece talking about how we need to send in the military to deal with Black Lives Matter. Huge controversy. The New York Times editor got fired because of allowing an opinion piece.
But forced to resign.
Yes.
Or I should say, he resigned in shame.
As I say, potato. You know what went on. You know what happened there. And now it's a big controversy. It's not even talked about. But I remember seeing one of the Antifa signs saying, "We don't want a Biden administration. We want vengeance."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a picture, I believe.
Yes, and it's a pretty visceral picture. But people need to understand the larger base of Antifa are not big Biden supporters. I don't think they ever were in the first place.
They weren't.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the issues I had with high-profile conservative personalities that would say, like, Antifa is the militant wing of the Democrat Party. And I'm like, nah, they hate Democrats.
Yeah,
and they will punch a liberal in the face.
But Democrats were eager to defend them as long as they
Yes.
were making Trump look bad.
So
Right.
crazy.
Yep.
Dangerous, too.
And now, well, what are they going to do?
Look at the Middle East with Obama and ISIS. It's like, it's perfectly on
brand.
On brand. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly their game.
Like when you use an evil demon to corrupt
Yeah,
your
I'm sorry.
file.
I'm sorry. I just saw this. We are ungovernable.
Literally,
All right,
technically
listen.
correct.
There's you know what I think? There's anarchists like these people who are more like some kind of rabid skunk. Just like, because the skunks are like all black, you know what I mean? Like, and they're wearing all black. And then they run around and you can't do anything with them because they're rabid. And that's the kind of anarchist they are. And you have people like Luke who are like, I would like to use Bitcoin to buy guns. And that's the other kind of anarchist, I guess.
Non-aggression principle and allowing people to, transact peacefully in a way that benefits them without transgressing on anyone's personal liberty or sovereignty or freedom.
Did I say buy Bitcoin with guns? Because I guess that would still work.
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Here's a
so,
gun,
yeah.
1 Bitcoin, please.
People do that. That has happened. There's many
Sell
interesting
a gun?
aggregist transactions that happen all throughout
I guess
the
you'd be
United States.
selling the gun for Bitcoin.
It's a
Okay.
common transaction in Galt's Gulch. Happens all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't want Biden. We want revenge for police murders, imperialist wars, and fascist massacres. And if you ask them, they probably can't tell you what that means.
Yeah, somebody made a statement. Most of those people are foot soldiers, just enraged, angry because they're not making any
No,
money.
but-
They
but-
can see the economy spiraling out of control, and that's about
They can't
the
see the
level of
economy,
their-
dude.
I think they can see it, but they don't
No,
understand
they
it.
want money printed. They're the ones who are like, print more money and give it to us. It's
But
like,
but
you're
prices
burn-
are going up. Like everyone sees that.
Yeah, but it's because of them. It's because it's like, could you imagine someone being like, we should put peanut butter in the gas tank? And you're like, that'll break the car. And then when the car breaks, more peanut butter. The car is breaking. I'm so angry. And you're like, you put peanut butter in the gas tank, dude. Machine doesn't work that way.
But also another interesting facet to understand here, they're going to eat their own. They're going to be fighting each other, as I was saying, a long time on this show. But another one is, a lot of them think that they were promised police reform. And that's nowhere to be seen part of this new Biden administration. Not that I've seen. I haven't seen any clutter or conversations or talk about any kind of reforming of the police or authorities. And
No,
that's
they're-
kind of their main
Dude, they put the militant prosecutor in
Yeah.
as VP.
Yeah.
Yep.
They put 25,000 troops in D.C. They started putting up "Thank you, police officer" signs all over D.C.
Didn't Pelosi want, quote, crew manned machine
Yes,
guns
she
at the
did.
Capitol?
Crew manned machine
Isn't
guns.
that gendered language?
Well,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Just saying.
In that situation, it was threatening to them, right? But what this Justice Department is more than likely going to be doing is going to your neighborhood police departments and hitting them with lawsuits because there are allegations of somebody getting mistreated when the cop was just doing his own job. So that's a real fear in terms of how they're going to affect policing where you live in your neighborhoods by interfering with the way your local police operations are.
And also with the attorney generals,
Right.
like we recently saw in New York, with the attorney general actually going after the NYPD for their handling of BLM protesters. So that's another case that's happening.
They exacerbated the problem. A problem that, Luke, you and I have been complaining about for a decade now. Since back when the black bloc anarchist types were going around smashing stuff, there was a moment where a dude was stalking me and then physically attacked me, and Luke grabbed his mask.
Yeah. Well, me and Matt intervened
Yeah.
because I saw him kind of going after you, and I was like, okay, let me stay close to Tim because I see they're going to try to attack him. And that's when they kind of jumped at
Bro,
you
that was
for
9
live streaming behind you. And as soon as they got behind you, me and Matt kind of jumped in and,
Where was
took
that?
care of that
This is
situation.
in New York.
This
9
was-
years ago.
Yeah, 9 years
Well-
ago. And I mean, what else did people expect? If you normalize violence politically, what did you think was going to happen? And now the Democrats, the Bidens, they have a huge situation that's very explosive right in their hands that they cultivated themselves.
Let's jump to the story you mentioned, Luke. We got it from the Daily Caller. Ken Cuccinelli claims Pelosi asked for crew-manned machine guns in Washington. I believe it. I kind of believe it. But let's read. Acting Deputy Homeland Security Secretary Ken Cuccinelli told Fox News the story Tuesday that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi asked for crew-manned machine guns to be part of security forces in Washington, D.C., ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. Cuccinelli and anchor Martha McCallum were discussing the presence of 25,000 National Guard troops in the nation's capital after pro-Trump rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol building January 6th. A division, Cuccinelli said, responding to McCallum's assertion that the number of troops is greater than the number in Afghanistan and Iraq. You have a division. The last up of thousands of these troops was requested by the speaker through the Capitol Police. She even wanted crew-manned machine guns in Washington. That was rejected because there's simply no use for that in a security arrangement for a civilian undertaking. Just so some of this has gone beyond any legitimate security need. Cuccinelli defended the troops as disciplined and professional and said they will perform as expected, but added that the state capitol buildings are also important to defend. The world is not about Washington, he said. It's supposed to be about everywhere else, which is what the Department of Homeland Security tries to keep secure. The acting DHS Deputy Secretary confirmed that threats of individual attacks in different places are also absolutely a problem before criticizing those who focus only on D.C. He says at the same time, where was the concern for the rest of America? Congressmen aren't more important than any other American. It's a good point.
Boom.
And everyone in this country should be kept safe, and that's what the Department of Homeland Security has endeavored to do through this entire difficult year. Crew-manned machine guns, what would that be, like full auto 50 BMG?
It's a team where one's holding it, the other one has to
Yeah.
carry the ammo and make sure it
Oh,
doesn't
the
get
belt.
jammed.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
belt feeder.
But is that would that be 50 BMG? I guess
th-
theoretically you
there's
could
many
do-
different calibers.
Yeah, you
that
could do
have
7.62
machine guns
belt-fed.
with. Yes, so
I'd like to imagine they were like mounting 50 BMG and just like Nancy Pelosi wanted just like to like if a human being gets hit by one of those things, they explode, right?
Like a red mist.
I wouldn't want to see that. I think a lot of soldiers
All right,
have,
all right.
and
It's
have
dark,
PTSD
it's dark
because of
humor.
that.
But I want to make a point. I'm just trying to drive home how insane it sounds. But here's the thing. In 2017, when there were thousands of people in D.C. rioting and smashing everything and starting fires, they organized that protest for Hillary Clinton, not for Donald Trump. The original plan was that Hillary Clinton was going to be inaugurated, and they were going to go and riot. Trump won, and they said, well, we're still going to riot.
Yep.
So I wonder if the real fear here wasn't the specter of the far right, which typically doesn't do anything, but that they knew, like we saw in Portland and Seattle and Denver and a few other places, Antifa would have come out in D.C. and destroyed everything were it not for the National Guard.
Yep. And I remember being there in D.C. You were there too. I think
Yeah, I
we
got
all
arrested.
we all got pepper sprayed. I was temporarily arrested and then talked my way out of it with my press credentials. But it was a wild, crazy day with a lot of property destruction.
We were walking down the street during the riot. Well, we were running with the riot, and then the police set up a line. You charged through it, and
Yes.
then I
Getting pepper sprayed heavily.
Yeah, they sprayed you like in the
Yeah.
face as he ran through the line.
Yeah.
And then I went into the doorway of this building, and then because this is how it works, everyone followed me, and so then I was smashed up against the door by a bunch of Antifa. And some of the people were nice. They gave me the milk of magnesia or whatever, Malox for the pepper spray. I was told 3 times by the supervisor that I was arrested and not free to go.
Yep.
But eventually, a local news crew their boss had called saying, you better not arrest our crew. So when he pulled out this crew, I reminded the lieutenant that I was like, hey, I talked to you. Look, here's my press card. And he was like, come on. And a bunch of journalists got pulled out. Now, here's the funny thing about this. I get pulled out and I tweet, just got arrested. They released me before, being taken I was there for like an hour or two. And some other journalists did get arrested, and they were so mad. They were tweeting like, I got arrested. Blah. I'm like, dude, one guy was screaming at the top of his lungs at the cops, you mother effer,
Yeah.
you can't arrest me. And I was like, I'm terribly sorry, officer. I'm a journalist. do your job on, here's my press card. Just come and talk to me when you get a chance.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I remember seeing the kettle, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to arrest everyone. And there's a wall of pepper spray, and they were spraying it. And I was like, I'm just going to run right through it. I got hit really hard. There was another female reporter who just made up and said, I'm pregnant. So I was
man.
like, I'm going through this. And then luckily she
Yeah, they
my
pulled her
going to
out.
get
They
hit.
pulled her
Yeah,
out.
they pulled her out. But back to the point of machine guns that Nancy Pelosi wants. She's essentially saying, protection for me, but not for thee. These are anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment individuals who don't believe in you having the right for personal protection, but they want machine guns for themselves. Are you kidding me?
Big guns.
You've got the NFA. You can't make. How's it work? You can't make a machine gun.
You can't have a you could only have machine guns within a certain year. So pretty much machine guns are only available for the super rich that could afford them because there's a limited supply within a certain year that you can could have them. So they're grandfathered in. There's few remaining, and the few that are only available to people who could spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000
or
on
government.
Them.
Or the military.
Yes.
So Nancy Pelosi is leading the charge to take away your right to have this protection. But she wants, of all things, if she said, I would like the National Guard to be armed with assault rifles, I'd be like, yeah, well, of course, the politicians get to carry guns. The politicians get to have security. But
Well, but think about it, too.
crew-manned machine guns
But
is
they're
above and
they're
beyond.
impractical. When you're talking about crewmen machine guns during inaugurations, during big events when there's crowds, this is the least tactical weapon that you could have, especially in big cities with big crowds, because you're going to mow down a whole bunch of innocent civilians standing in the way
and
that
civilian
don't deserve to
buildings.
be killed.
Civilian buildings.
Yeah, so,
Wait,
so
right.
it's just absolutely illogical
No,
and
listen,
stupid
listen.
thinking by
It's
Nancy
because,
Pelosi.
It's because they don't understand that full auto isn't tactical. They think we have to ban full semi-automatic weapons, which for one, they've actually said that means nothing. When they say, I remember at the March for Our Lives, people were like, no one needs a fully automatic weapon. And I'd tell them like, well, you can't buy one. And nobody has one except for like these really rare grandfathered and old
And
machine
it's never
guns.
used in a crime here.
Yeah, nobody's carrying around a light machine gun in their truck or whatever to like it's a movie or something.
Right.
But that's what these people think. So here's what people don't realize. Now I'm sure people can correct me if I'm wrong, but what you should be worried about, my understanding, is that a semi-auto is actually way more dangerous than a full auto for a deranged killer because they'll spray off all their ammo and miss and then click, click, click. Whereas with semi-auto, they can go 1, 2, very calm and precise. Or more importantly, when you have the military, it's sometimes better to do semi-auto or burst fire than full auto. Nancy Pelosi saying crew-manned machine guns shows they don't actually know how to operate a weapon, why and what kind of weapon you would need for this certain circumstance.
So she's should never be president. She
Oh.
doesn't understand military. She wanted the DOD, was it, to go do a coup against Trump like 2 weeks ago.
She asked them to strip Trump from the chain of command.
Well,
Right.
she has no
She's a moron.
considerations for the citizens of Washington, D.C.
Well,
doesn't
not just that, but
understand
think about
military.
it. It's much more nefarious than that, I think, because this was in reaction to what happened on the 6th, okay? Say what you will about the 6th, but we're in a country here where pretty much anybody can get a firearm. Pretty much anybody can get an AR, an assault weapon, anything like that. I don't remember seeing a whole lot of protesters brandishing, much less firing firearms in the 6th. So if this was a preparation for a reaction similar, this reaction was in preparation for what they saw on the 6th, which is calling for is automatic military weapons to be used on an unarmed population. This is what she thinks of the country, of the people, of the citizens. She is content with having 50 caliber military grade weapons aimed at them and ready to go.
We added the 50 caliber part.
Oh, okay.
Belt-
all right.
belt-
You're right. You got me. You got
Belt-fed,
Belt-fed.
crew-manned machine guns.
Yes.
So guns that require multiple people to operate them. Let's
Yeah.
go with that. That's what she thinks of us in the country.
I'm surprised she didn't set up landmines all over the Capitol building. I mean, it would make more sense with the actual tactical defensive positioning rather than mowing people down with automatic machine guns. So
It's beyond the people. Could you imagine? Look. I've been to Ukraine. I know I mentioned Ukraine a lot because it's a place I've been to, and there are still buildings riddled with bullet holes from World War II and Cold War conflict. And so I'm walking down the street. We went to the mall to get food, and then my friend is like, "Oh, look at that building. See all those holes? Yeah, that's machine gun fire." And I'm like, "They never fixed it? No." I'm like, wow. I mean, it's a poor country, so they're kind of just like, what are we gonna do about it?
Right. And remember, under her leadership and the leadership of her party, we had members of in our Navy in hostile ports being ordered not to be armed, not to have ammunition in their firearms, taking their naval vessels into hostile ports, and they were attacked, and many of them died from that. Yet here at this inauguration, she wants
What's the situation with the naval guy? I haven't heard of this. What happened?
Oh yeah, it was under the previous Democrat administration. They were prevented from having armed weapons as they went into several, hostile ports. And there was one case where that actually ended up an attack ship came in. They weren't able to respond to it, and it detonated and killed a bunch of American sailors.
What? Do you know where that was? off the top
I'm
of
sure
your
we
head?
can Google it or look it up. I can't recall. It was somewhere in the Middle East.
That was Pelosi's.
Well, that was when she was in Congress and her Democratic Party's leadership. They had the White House at the time, so.
There you go. You can see what these people, what these politicians think of the people, and what they would do to them. But that's a good point, man. The people who stormed the Capitol, many of them were just bewildered and befuddled, walking into open doors. Some of them were violent and aggressive, but I think the worst we saw was crowbars.
Yeah.
Did
Well, I think there was one video with one guy brandishing what looked like a firearm within his shirt, but I don't think he took it out and was waving it around. But I think it's fair to say that the magnitude of the threat was wildly exaggerated for political purposes and political powers, and also for the media for ratings, views, clicks, with their kind of fear-mongering sensationalism that drove the headlines in. And now we have some violence happening. They don't care about it because it's the wrong people protesting.
Hold on.
No? No?
Joe Biden was made to look really bad today. All right, when Antifa was trending on Twitter in Seattle and Portland, and they had to take action. So we got this tweet from Andy No. Breaking: Twitter has suspended several prominent Antifa accounts. The Base Brooklyn is one of them. The Base is an extremist bookstore in Brooklyn, New York, that has been used as an Antifa training center. 16,800 followers gone. We also have MF Jew M, the Jewish worker, 30,000 followers, gone. Revolutionary Abolitionist Movement, 11,400 followers, gone. And Rev Abolition NYC, gone. And I think these are just a few that Andy has highlighted. I'm sure there's a lot more.
Yeah.
And this is, well, like we mentioned earlier, they're throwing away what they don't need anymore. It's making them look bad. They need to get rid of it. And you know what? I'll say this. If they were advocating violence, if they were organizing violence, ban them. Get rid of them. If they were just tweeting stupid opinions, then I still think the censorship is bad. I don't care if it's the left or the right, but you know what one of the biggest problems with all of this censorship stuff is? There's a left-wing podcast that got nuked on YouTube. I'm not going to name them. And immediately, you know what I see? I see the libertarians, I see the free speech advocates, the anti-SJWs, all defending them, saying, hey, reinstate them.
Yep.
But then what happens when it's, say, Count Dankula gets mass demonetized? They go, ha, 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 serves you right, but my private business. That's a problem.
Yep.
When you get a person like Count Dankula, who will act with honor and integrity and stand up for principle, and his adversaries will not, we are all at a disadvantage when we're fair and respect people and their rights to free speech. That being said, these people, I believe, were I wouldn't be surprised if they were organizing actual violence. They like to point to right-wingers, and they say, I see this on Reddit all the time, well, maybe you shouldn't send death threats to people and they wouldn't have deleted Parler. And it's like, dude, there was, I think, 60 posts out of hundreds of thousands just in like an hour period that were violent. Or I'm sorry, I should say there were probably millions of posts and 60 altogether that were considered to be like harsh death threats. So they nuked the entire company. Come on, man, that doesn't make sense. Twitter is loaded with extremist propaganda and calls for violence, and it's protected. So if you were to tell me that people on Parler were sending, death threats, whatever, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's a good thing they were banning them. But that's not everybody. And if you tell me Antifa was doing it, I'd be like, yeah, are they going to ban them? And then they're going to cry foul, and they're going to start saying, we're the free speech activists to defend our free speech. The one thing I really love about all this stuff is when I see the tweets from the leftists, and they're like, we're all the free speech warriors now to complain about the censorship of those criticizing Israel. And I'm like, bro, we've all been defending your free speech too the entire time. And when it happens, we always speak up about it. And then when it happens to us, they laugh. So what do you do?
I even remember arguing with them years ago when people were being banned, independent media, people on the right, and they were celebrating it. I'm like, you guys don't understand. The hammer is going to come after you very, very soon. Here it is. It's only going to get worse. And this is what happens when you cheer on for a few small select individuals to have the ultimate power of controlling speech. It's a huge power. It's going to be used and abused. If you're standing in the way of the cogs of the machines, if you're not in the right position, if you're not reiterating the right talking points at the right time, you're going to be axed no matter who you are, and it's coming everywhere.
I think it was Glenn Greenwald who said it best. I think this was. I think it's his quote. That if there's any group of people that fails to learn from past mistakes, it's liberals advocating for censorship, because it always recoils back on them. And it's true for Antifa now getting nuked. They were all cheering for it. Well, goodbye.
When you talk about censorship and Antifa violence, it's like a demon that is like, free me and I will destroy your enemies.
Yeah.
And
Genie
you're
in the
like, that,
bottle.
all you have to do is release me from these chains. Trust me.
Yes.
And you're like,
That's
I
Mark
I
Zuckerberg.
trust you,
No,
demon.
it's-
And then you release the demon, he kills your enemies, and then he kills you.
Yeah.
It's like
He
it's like
comes after
you know.
Thank you, idiot.
You ever see Aladdin when Jafar wishes he's a genie, and then they did the part 2 for like straight to home DVD. Jafar's a genie now, and he's like, "Wish me free." It's like, yeah, you're evil, and if we unleash this, you're gonna hurt everybody. But you know what, man? Some people don't care.
Or they don't know.
No.
They're
You
ignorant,
know what
a
it
lot
is?
of them.
It's the One Ring. It's
I've been watching a lot of Lord of the Rings lately.
Antifa was Boromir, right? And he's like, censorship is a gift. We should wield it against our enemies. You can't control it. No one can. That's exactly what happened. And they didn't get it. And now they're getting nuked.
But I think a lot of them is ignorance. So we can, just spread the knowledge about the danger of censorship. That helps a lot. Not everyone's malicious. A lot of
Well,
people are ignorant.
I saw a cartoon today where it's 4 guys in a boat and 2 guys are on one end bailing the boat out because there's a leak at the other end. And the other 2 guys at the other end of the boat are like, haha, well, I'm glad, this isn't affecting us.
Oh, because it's raised
Okay,
up, right?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah, they're like
yeah.
floating and the boat's sinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
That's fine,
world
yeah.
they seek to create. But I'll tell you what's interesting about this. So I'll just show you this real quick. This is literally what Antifa is doing today. We mentioned this in the previous segment. We don't want Biden. We want revenge. And there's what looks like, is that an AK?
Yeah.
It looks like an AK. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. But this the organization, the base, is based in New York. They have a public-facing website. All its information is readily available in public. They have their open hours. They say the base is an anarchist political center in Bushwick, Brooklyn, committed to the dissemination of revolutionary left and anarchist ideas and organizing. Now on their website, it's very innocuous, right? Well, Project Veritas actually did an expose. I don't know if I actually have the full expose. Well, here's an opinion piece about it or something, where they had footage from inside where they were doing combat training, basically. That was self-defense training. You're allowed to do self-defense training. Totally acceptable. I took a kung fu class once. That's right, I did. We had to fight with the sticks. It was really cool.
Ooh.
Long time ago.
Boken?
No. It's called something else because there's 2 of them and you hold them like that. And we did this they do this really fast, fighting stuff. So that's fine. But there is an issue when you've got advocacy for violence, when you've got evidence that these groups in New York have been violent, and they're teaching people about revolutionary ideas, and they hold extremist views, and then they train for violence. You add all those things together, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're posting really, really bad stuff. It's going to get them banned.
Wouldn't it be good though if we knew what they posted that they got banned for?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I've maybe it was innocuous, maybe it was something that crosses the line. I mean, we have no idea. It's always the mystery with these guys. There's no transparency in the banning process.
And that is a problem. And that's why I typically am opposed to it no matter what.
Well,
But I guess you got to draw the line if they're saying, like, go do a thing. You know what I mean?
sure.
But we should at least know what they said and to have full transparency and accountability from these big tech networks that are literally having the most important power in the world, destroying anything that could be made up.
It's such a catch-20. I don't know if it's catch-22 or it's just a hard situation, because if they said something that's going to radicalize people, they want to prevent people from seeing it. But if they prevent people from seeing it, then we can't verify that what they did was wrong.
Exactly.
The problem is that they shouldn't get to choose what is going to radicalize someone. Every idea should be held equally valid unless it's explicitly calling for violence against someone. So every idea should be out.
Well, and if it was actually calling for violence, that's not actually legally protected speech
Exactly.
either. I mean, because the law is pretty clear. In fact, actually, if I can jump in here and say something about this problem, I actually came here tonight with the solution to this problem.
Solution.
A solution to tech
Solutions. We
censorship.
don't talk about that.
Yeah, all we do is complain.
It is. I agree with you. It's much easier to complain, but I have the solution. I brought it with me. to tech censorship, to deplatforming, to getting blacklisted by financial firms. And it's very simple. We have to sort of look, where do we have strength still? Because, the Senate's gone, the House is gone, it's in the control of progressives. We don't know where the Supreme Court is, but where we still have a lot of allies and people supporting us, in fact, in a majority of the state legislatures. So I believe that the solution is state legislation that prevents the state and any government within the state, that's counties, cities, etc., from engaging in business with the social networks that censor, with tech companies that deplatform, with financial institutions that blacklist people. Because, look, we kind of agree, we're all on the side that it's your company, you run the social network, you can decide who's on it and who isn't, right? But you're not entitled to tax money paid by people who you are deplatforming, whom you're getting fired, whom you're throwing off your service and blacklisting and taking away their bank accounts. So the solution is for citizens, you guys out there, to lobby your state legislatures to say, we're not going to give any business to any one of these companies that does this. We're going to divest our pension funds, our rainy day funds from companies that engage in this behavior. And either if you're going to get a government contract, you're going to embrace the First Amendment, and you're not going to deplatform people for legal speech, constitutionally protected political activity, or gainful employment. So the way to get where we're going is basically to get these state governments on board. And one of two things going to happen, okay? 1, 2, 3, 5 states agree to this type of legislation. Either the Amazons, the Twitters, the Facebooks are going to say, okay, we are not going to censor legal speech. Or they're going to say, screw you guys, we're going to do what we want. And suddenly there's a space for companies that do embrace that to go after those government contracts, to go after that money. And that's how we create this parallel alternate ecosystem of financial companies, social media, and technical companies who embrace the First Amendment. These government contracts would be the seed money to create this ecosystem. So basically the bottom line is the state of South Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma, all of these states where we could potentially pass this legislation, say to Amazon, to Twitter, to Facebook, look, you're not getting another penny from us. Or to Citibank, you're not going to kick these people off your platform because you disagree with their political ideas and continue to do business with us. So they'll have to make a choice. And them saying no creates a space for these new companies to emerge that do embrace the First Amendment.
What kind of money do states send the way of Amazon and Facebook?
Well, marketing budgets is one thing on the socials. Now, that's not particularly huge, but what is much more significant is their pension funds and rainy day funds being invested in these companies, as well as so many government services are dependent on contractors that use services like Amazon Web Services and those other companies that discriminate, that kick Parler off, right? So, if just South Carolina or just Oklahoma did it, maybe it wouldn't get their attention, but you get like half the states in the country doing, those are billions and billions and billions of dollars that either they're going to have to change their policies to accept or give up. And that becomes the fuel for their new competitors who embrace the First Amendment to get that seed money so they can grow and compete against them. And look, like I said, they're entitled to run their platforms, suppose how they want, but they're not entitled to tax dollars paid for by me, whose rights they're denying, whose rights of free expression and political activity and gainful employment they're denying. So this is how we fight back. And I guess I'm going to plug this, but Look Ahead America, we're going to train people next Wednesday online, as many as 3,000 people, on how to do grassroots lobbying, how to lobby your legislature to get them to pass legislation like this that says, look, Facebook may kick you off, but they're not going to get any of your tax money for advertising or marketing. AWS may kick your Parler off, but they're not going to get any contracts for running the state's Medicare and Medicaid programs if they're going to deplatform you.
So the moment there is a legitimate legal challenge saying I was unjustly removed from this platform due to my protected speech, then the state seizes all contracts and tax expenditures going to these companies.
Well, it'll be like a year period where they get to disentangle from any entity that does not agree to basically fulfill, allow people to have free speech, free legal speech without censoring it. And there's, it's every state has its different legal peculiarities, but we have these are the policy objectives. Very clear and simple. You get a state legislature to turn them into the state's legislative council. It becomes legislation. It goes through hearings, amendments, etc. But this is how we fight back.
Why don't we just have the state legislatures pass laws saying you can't ban people for illegal speech?
Well,
they tried that in Florida, I believe. It didn't go anywhere. But why not just actually get it done?
Because this is, I think, easier because the state can control who it does does contracts with. You may recall the state of California banned all travel to other states that did not
Yes.
support bathroom laws.
Yeah.
The federal government, other states also have riders for all their contracts that force them to accept rules that are not part of civil rights legislation, but sort of extend it. So this is common in government contracting and very powerful tool for reform. And it's just a lot easier than saying, hey, social networks can't ban it, because then it becomes a federal matter, whereas the states control who they're going to spend with and who they're not going to spend with.
Yeah, we saw Poland recently propose legislation that would heavily fine social media companies for censoring legal speech. So that's also another aspect of it. But this is interesting because many Silicon Valley companies are looking to leave California, that tax-filled, amazing place that has a lot of homeless people. Because of the unlivable conditions, these companies are looking to reposition themselves. So this could be an opportunity to have local jurisdictions kind of step up. I think, do you have high hopes of of this being able to be organized? And what other ties do local jurisdictions have with big tech that could be affected here?
Well, look, all of these big tech companies have offices in every state capital. Why? It's because they're going after state government contracts. These are hundreds of billions of trillions of dollars in state, city, county spending. And this matters. And again, it's going to have one of two outcomes. Either they're going to forgo billions of dollars in revenue, billions of dollars that will instead go to their competitors, brand new competitors, which they hate and fear. Or they're going to have to relent and say, okay, we're going to permit legal speech. We're not going to kick people off our platform for, you've got banks saying that we're going to stop doing business with firearms manufacturers. And, if it's your thing, marijuana farms, right? Because, well, this would prevent that. Or at least say the state is not going to accept payments from these banks or do transactions through these banks if they ban legal. It's very simple. Whereas when you start banning like the behavior, or you say a social network can't ban legal speech, you get into interstate commerce issues, and this maybe that company's located in another state. You're going to cut off internet traffic. It becomes very complicated. Whereas this is very clean cut, and I have high hopes because look, we've got a lot of people with a lot of energy who want to do something and want to make a difference and are fed up with this problem. Becoming a grassroots lobbyist, becoming an activist. This is what the left has done for so long, and they've had tremendous success with it because they were patient with themselves, the time it took, and because they were determined they didn't give up. I know that there are at least a third to half of the states in this country that would eagerly pass some form of this legislation. It's just that it has to get pushed, and nothing moves in politics unless it pushes. It's dependent on these folks out here to allow my organization, Look Ahead America, to organize them, to guide them, and to train them on how to do this and how to actually make it happen. Because we can talk all day about all the problems in the world, but we've got enough talkers. Tim does a great job. We don't need more talkers. We need
Too many
more
complainers.
doers. We need more people